Hey guys, welcome back to Robin's Gluten-Free Living. Today I want to talk to you about why I stopped baking with gluten-free all-purpose blends. Right after my celiac diagnosis, I remember standing in the grocery store looking up at this big wall of gluten-free flours, blends, and mixes. If there was a nut, seed, grain, or legume that was gluten-free, it was ground and packaged as a flour, and I had no idea where to begin. And I was one of the lucky ones who lived in a big city. If you live in a small town, it's slim pickings. Choosing a gluten-free all-purpose blend seemed like a no-brainer, since when I did my baking before my diagnosis, I would use a regular all-purpose flour with great results. Surely it's the same thing, right? No, it's not. Cut to 2 years and a dozen gluten-free all-purpose blends later, I was a mess. One blend would work for muffins, the other for pizza, but try the muffin blend for pizza and you get a beanie slab of cardboard. I couldn't figure out why my gluten-free baking wasn't getting any better. The answer? All-purpose blends. Now don't get me wrong, gluten-free blends are a great starting point, and I would have been lost without them when I first started baking gluten-free. They're a solid first step into the world of gluten-free baking. In the long run though, you'll hit a wall and finally realize there will never be one gluten-free all-purpose blend that can do it all. Louder for the people in the back! There will never be a gluten-free all-purpose flour that can do it all. Here are my top 3 reasons why I gave up on blends and why you should too. Reason number 1, blends are inconsistent. All gluten-free blends are different. Some are starch heavy, some have bean flours in them, some have a binder like xanthan gum, and some don't. This means that you might find a blend that's fantastic for cookies, but makes your bread into a tiny, dense little lump. Let's look at 2 popular blends, the all-purpose baking flour and the gluten-free 1-to-1 flour, both by Bob's Red Mill. The base of the all-purpose baking flour is garbanzo bean flour, which is chickpea flour, and the base of the gluten-free 1-to-1 flour is sweet rice flour, which is made from glutinous rice or sticky rice. Let's think about that for a second. Imagine that you have a handful of chickpeas and a handful of sticky rice. When you look at them side by side, it's obvious they have very different properties. You would never make your hummus with sticky rice, and you would never wrap your sushi in chickpeas. This is why blends are not interchangeable and will give you inconsistent results. I get so frustrated with online recipes that call for blends. Because they're not interchangeable, if I want to get that same result, I have to use that same blend. And then what happens if I can't find that blend? I either order it internationally online, which is expensive, or I take my chances and use another all-purpose flour and it doesn't work and then I cry. Some recipes call for you to make your own all-purpose blend, which might be a better option, except for the fact that you have to go and buy all those individual flours and mix them all together for that one recipe. And if you don't like the recipe, then you get a big tub of this random all-purpose flour that you're not going to use again. It's a vicious circle. And the worst offender is when recipes just call for 1 cup gluten-free all-purpose flour, which is basically like saying 1 cup random dry ingredients. Reason number 2, blends are expensive. Being frugal and being gluten-free do not go together. Between paying for upgrades at restaurants and premium prices at the grocery store, my credit card was screaming. Or maybe that was me. That's because I didn't realize how much more I was spending by buying blends. Occasionally you can get a great deal on a brand name blend, but typically they're marked up, as they should be for mixing everything together and packing it into a convenient little package. Or not so convenient, as we're now seeing. Let's get a little nitty-gritty from my math nerds out there. The all-purpose baking flour that I mentioned earlier is about $1.13 per 100 grams. But if you were to buy all the ingredients in that blend separately in bulk, the prices range between 32 cents per 100 grams to 57 cents per 100 grams. That's more than double the cost just to have somebody mix it together for you. So why in the world would you pay more money to get a blend that's actually holding you back? I don't know. You can get those same ingredients at a cheaper price and get a better result. Reason number 3, You're working against the ingredients. Here's the main reason your gluten-free baking isn't improving. When you use blends, you can't control the ingredients, so you never know why your baking didn't turn out. Did it have too much starch? Did it need a better binder? Even if you figure that out, you would have to add other ingredients to your all-purpose blend, defeating the purpose of the all-purpose blend. Let me give you an example. When I tried making biscuits, I started off using gluten-free all-purpose blends, but the results were ranging from chewy to bone dry. They just weren't working. That's when I had the realization that changed my gluten-free baking game. I stopped using blends and started using the individual flours, starches, and binders. So I looked at the common ingredients in all of these blends, bought them individually, and started tailoring the recipe, trying different amounts to see what worked. With the biscuits, I tried a version with a lot of tapioca flour, thinking it was gonna give me a nice, soft, fluffy biscuit. In reality, it made my biscuits stretchy. I kid you not, stretchy. So, tapioca flour, not good for biscuits. But because I wasn't using a blend, I could leave it out. Part of the reason why all of my first biscuits I tried to make were failing is because basically all blends have tapioca flour. By baking this way, you can tailor your recipes by selecting the right ingredients in the right amounts. This will give you a better result and help you save money. When I started adapting my recipes, I read a lot. I learned about all the different ingredients and their properties. I even bought a used textbook off of eBay about gluten-free food science. You don't have to do that. I'm just a nerd. Here's what I learned. Generally, gluten-free all-purpose blends are about 60 to 70% grains, like rice flours, and the rest is starches, like potato starch, tapioca starch, and corn starch. And then you also have a binder like xanthan gum. For example, if a recipe calls for 2 cups of gluten-free all-purpose flour, you can try using 1 cup of white rice flour, a half a cup of brown rice flour, a 1/4 cup of tapioca starch, and a 1/4 cup of potato starch. And then you'll need to add some xanthan gum. By doing this, you'll get to know each ingredient intimately and how it affects your baked good. It'll take your gluten-free baking to a whole new level. I know that sounds like a lot of work. It is. That's why I created my gluten-free baking courses. I made stretchy biscuits so that you don't have to. Shameless plug, but if you want to learn more about my courses, visit my website, glutenfreebakingcourses.com. If you found this video helpful or have any questions, let me know in the comments below. While you're down there, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. If you want more gluten-free tips, tricks, and life hacks, hit the subscribe button and I'll see you in the next video. Happy baking!